We're good to go.
All right, perfect. So we're here again to talk about some digital marketing. This time we thought we'd switch gears a little bit to talk about social media and social media ads, mainly Facebook and Instagram, but we'll touch on some other stuff too. But let's start with an introduction as we kind of did last time. So in case you don't know, my name's Marissa. I'm the content specialist here at 910, which really just means I handle a whole lot of content. So that's everything from writing content for websites, but mainly I do a lot of the digital marketing, which is anything from SEO, which is blog posts, social media, Google Ads, Google everything, all that good stuff. So that's me. Ryan, do you want to give yourself a little bit of an introduction?
Yeah, my name is Ryan Blay. I'm one of the owners at 910, and my role is business development. So I really work with our clients um, to determine sort of what their needs are and help match them with our products and services. So we never do that blindly. In order for me to get that right, I have to develop a relationship of trust with our clients where I get to understand their business and ultimately get to understand their goals and objectives. So last week we had a discussion about Google. Specifically, we were answering a question related to from Chris Beauchamp on effectively the difference between SEO and SEM, which is jargon words to say what are the things you can do to earn your placement on Google search and versus paying for your placement. So if we just switch gears over into social media land, and we'll talk primarily about Facebook, but we'll also sort of veer into Instagram, which is owned by Facebook. And there's this idea where everyone understands that Facebook is this powerful platform where you can engage and connect with your audience online, and it typically happens in the news feed. But what we want to kind of sort of tease out today is the difference between organic or sometimes called earned placement, so the things you can do for free using these powerful platforms, versus paying Facebook to distribute or to push your message, your promotion out further. So when you're doing something for free, what you're really doing is you're probably on your Facebook page, you're posting something into the news feed, and to the extent that you've posted good content and it's interesting, it will naturally and organically find people within the news feed. It'll organically sort of spread, go viral, if you will. And really what viral means is it's all of a sudden, for sort of what might feel like magical reasons, thousands and thousands of people are seeing it. So how did that happen? Well, really it happened because Facebook is a recommendation engine, and it starts recommending it into people's newsfeed when it starts getting signals that people are engaging with it. And to quote unquote engage with a Facebook post is really to click one of the three buttons: like, comment, or share. And that gives a signal to Facebook to do a few things, and one of them being distribute to more people. Um, so, but then if you're a business and when you're looking at doing that, it's kind of hard to create, I've heard before, how do you make content go viral? Well, if I had the answer to do that repeatedly on a consistent basis, we would probably be a lot bigger than we are, right? And the truth is,
Totally.
it's difficult. There's no perfect formula for creating viral content, but there are a lot of best practices. And generally speaking, it's half art, half science. There's some technical things you should keep in mind, and then the sort of art side of it is you have to be compelling, you have to be engaging, you have to have good quality content, and that's a challenge. But anyways, without getting too much into the weeds about that yet, you can roll the dice, if you will, and put your content out there, and depending on how good it is and whether or not it is resonating with your audience, you will organically reach an audience. But what's interesting about Facebook, and this would be true about Instagram as well, is you can say, well, I want to ensure that regardless of the amount of people I'm going to reach organically, I'm willing to just cut a check to Facebook on a post by post basis to specifically push this out to a certain target audience. And Facebook's ad platform allows you to do that. So you can choose to pay Facebook additional dollars, and they will take your money. And when they take your money, they'll say, great, who would you like for this post to be seen by? And then you can start to target men or women by geographic region, by interests and likes and all that sort of stuff. So I think that's what I'm hoping, Marissa, we can get into. And you work with Chris on our team to actually help our clients leverage this paid platform, and also provide training and consultation to our clients so they can do a better job of leveraging the free or organic side of posting to the newsfeed.
That's right. And like the important thing to remember, just as like a general idea on like Facebook or Instagram, is that yes, we can push these ads out to people, and yes, they might be successful, but like if you're not using the platform organically, either you're also missing that audience, and missing opportunities to communicate with them. But it's also something that kind of needs to go hand in hand, right? Like the more active you are organically, the more likely that your ads are going to do well, and vice versa. And they're kind of interconnected that way, for sure, the paid and organic. But yeah, so we run a lot of ads for various clients in various industries on Facebook, some of which choose to also advertise on Instagram. So you can target a lot of ways with your Facebook ads. As you said, you can target by geographic region, which is usually where we kind of start, right? So are you looking at just the Grande Prairie area? Are you looking at just the north end, or are you looking at the south end, or is there a specific side of town that your clients usually come from? Do you get any rural clients, or are we expanding that outside the city limits? If so, how far? Are you actually serving people from, Valley View, Peace River? Like how far north are we going? So we can tailor the target by that. And then we'd want to know, is this a service that both men and women use, or are you selling, like your favorite example to use, I think, is wedding dresses. So we're probably not going to be advertising those to the men, just the women. And that'll cut down our audience and make it so that we're hitting the right people. Beyond that, you can actually tailor by interests as well. So this gets a little bit granular depending on what kind of industry you're in. So certain industries can target a lot more specifically. Other industries kind of are stuck with a more general targeting, just because maybe Facebook hasn't made the type of targeting available to them, or there might just not be a reason to make it that specific, especially in a smaller area like Grande Prairie. So it really depends on the industry that the client's in, how large their geographic region is, and what other specificities about their audience, I guess, is. So we will sometimes get really specific with the targeting, which can come right down to like targeting a female between the ages of 18 and 35, and specifically the ones who are engaged, and looking at this specific brand of wedding dress, for example. That may be how specifically we get, or we might be more general and just be saying kind of, hey, anyone in Grande Prairie who's over the age of 20, that's who we want to target. So
yeah, and I always like to use examples to sort of describe this. So when you're talking about general targeting, let's just say, Stampede this year, we're not sure yet if it'll go on, but just as an example, maybe TP Creek is a good example. We actually do quite a bit of digital advertising for them. We can imagine pushing general awareness ads out into a certain geographic region. So we're saying anyone in Facebook land between the ages of 18 to 65, men or women, we want them to see this ad within Grande Prairie and a 50-kilometer radius. Or we could say all of Alberta, or we could say all of Western Canada. So as we define our geographic parameter, we're including more or less people. So if you're including more people, you obviously need to have a higher budget, because more people are going to click on it, and it's a cost per click model typically. So, but what I always tell clients is like, who are you trying to who's your target audience? Who's your customer? And invariably the answer is quite often anyone, everyone. And that's a really bad answer from a marketing perspective, from a targeting perspective, because that requires sort of unlimited budgets to get a message out to everyone. So then what you want to do is you want to see if you can be targeted. So using the example of TP Creek there, just as an example, we can start to create campaigns where we start playing with different audiences, and we say, let's take this specific message with these words and these graphics and this landing page, and let's target this towards a family. And so we might have pictures of like a great family getaway and outing, TP Creek, come check it out, and then we would target that, say, to what we would sort of try to identify as maybe a young mother. But then we could target a completely different type of audience towards more of a corporate package, and we could target that based on people within Facebook that we can target based on whether someone is a business owner, for example.
Mm-hmm.
We've done targeting before where ads are just targeted to realtors and developers within the Grand Prairie region. So it's using Facebook's ads platform is actually a bit of a good training tool for companies to start to go through the process of identifying and segmenting their target audience. And, if we just kind of use another example, let's just say we are trying to do a campaign for a company like, say, Barton's. They sell, hunting equipment. So we can make the assumption, and the assumptions never hold true across the board, but we could assume that generally the target audience is men. So we could say, let's target men within a certain age range, within whatever geographic region we choose. And if it's all of Alberta, that's going to be more expensive than just Grand Prairie. And then we say, but let's try to target them based on interests and likes as well. And so what happens when people are logged into Facebook, Facebook is watching you, which is to say it understands which pages and what type of content you're interacting with. But also, as you leave Facebook and you're out on the open internet, if you're still logged in, you're being tracked, and you basically your interest graph starts getting tracked, and we can Facebook can tell what are your general interests. So if you tend to be engaging with content related to like camping or hiking or ATV or quadding or things like this, these would be the types of interests that we would say, if someone's interested in camping and hiking, we could make the assumption that this is the type of person that would generally fit the profile of someone who might be interested in outdoor gear and hunting gear and that type of stuff. So in this case, we're targeting based on a general interest. And just before we turn this on, you were telling me about one of our clients in jewelry where we're actually targeting women based on the type of brands they're engaging with. And I think you had mentioned specifically Tacori, right? So this is very granular.
Yeah, so you can get quite specific with it. You can also, this is never something I would recommend companies doing right off the bat, just because it can really narrow in your audience. But let's say, so if we take the hunting example, one of the people that we really don't want to see the ad is maybe like people who are vegetarian or something like that, right? So the people who are going to be opposed to it, you don't want to spend your money advertising to them. They're not going to be interested. So you can actually exclude certain groups of people as well. So you can get quite specific in who exactly you want to see and not see your ad. To get the best results, right? The more specific and the more accurate your audience is, the better the results are going to be right off the bat. People are automatically going to engage with them better if they're interested in the topic you're talking about, I'm sure. Like, we can all relate to the ad that we're like, why did that get shown to me? Because I'm definitely not into that, or whatever it is.
Yeah, you can actually train Facebook. People don't typically do this, but when you see an ad and it doesn't seem to be relevant, there's a little sort of button you can click on, and it expands a dialogue, and you can basically tell Facebook, I don't like this ad, I found it offensive, it's not relevant, whatever.
Yeah.
And so even on personal usage, Facebook has a lot of these granular features, which I find generally no one uses, most people are not aware of. But this extends into using Facebook professionally as a business. There's a lot of best practices on using it, we'll say properly, which is to say not swimming against the current, getting more bang for your buck, ensuring that when you're targeting, you're not targeting so broadly that you're sort of wasting your money. And I wanted to ask you if you could maybe just share a little bit of a difference between, so when someone is posting organically, they just post to the newsfeed and they hope that it's going to be seen by a bunch of people, but then they're tempted by that little button that says boost, which really means, hey, Facebook, take my money and push this out a little bit further. So boosting posts is sort of the lowest bar, the lowest entry into getting into ads, a Facebook ads platform. And it's it's both similar and quite different than the more robust Facebook ads platform. Can you just untangle those two?
Yeah, so It's a little bit complicated because you are still technically running an ad when you boost a post, but it is the best way for especially our clients if they're running ads for the first time. I'd highly recommend doing it that way. One, they're usually familiar with already creating a post, and so there's no new hurdles to jump over there. They already know how to create a post. They can create the post, set their graphic up or their picture or their video or whatever they're using, and they would publish it as they normally publish it, and then they hit the boost. So when it comes up into that screen, they'll have a couple of options, but not as many as when you're creating your own ad right in the Ads Manager platform on Facebook. You can still set a budget. You can still set the timeline of how long you want it to run. But Facebook also knows that maybe this person is a little bit newer to it. It will give more recommendations when you're trying to boost a post and say, generally we recommend you boost it this many days. We recommend you would probably boost it for this amount. They're trying to help you along and make it so that you are running a successful ad because you might be a little bit newer at it. You can still pick an audience, but there's going to be a little bit, there are going to be fewer options that you see right off the bat. So boosting is always a great way to get into running ads. But when you're running actual ads, you're going to have way more options to the point of it's almost, I guess, almost too much information at the start, and it's definitely a little confusing. But the different things that you can do when you're actually making an ad from scratch versus boosting a post include things like I can go in and change the graphic that I want to show up when somebody sees the ad in their stories on Facebook or Instagram. I can change the actual graphic that will show up, and I can change the graphic that shows up on Instagram versus Facebook. So now I'm tailoring it a lot more, and I'm making sure that, I'm taking the time to actually put in those little details that might get the person on Instagram to click on it over the person on Facebook, and really changing it out that way and becoming a lot more intentional in my ad creation. Does that kind of answer the question? I'm not sure if I should go into a little bit more detail there.
Yeah, no, I'll sort of jump off from there too, because the way I encourage our clients, if they're already managing their Facebook pages, to, experiment with boosting a post. Like you said, they already know how to create the post. And when they go to boost it, Facebook does a pretty good job of walking them through that. And there's not a lot of asset creation. They don't have to create. So when we're creating ad campaigns in the Facebook Ads Manager, there's a number of different sized graphic assets that are required.
Yeah.
And when we're also creating an ad campaign in the ads platform, we typically also create a landing page, which is going to have an offer with a lead generation form and analytics and all of this sort of stuff. And so I sort of think of boosting a post as the best way sort of to experiment and get going with leveraging Facebook ads platform. But then when you start to see that that's working well for you and it makes sense for your company to invest in paid target advertising, the more powerful and granular way to do that is through the ads platform. But it tends to get, because it's so much more granular and there's the interface is quite unintuitive actually if you're just getting started. So what quite often we'll do is 910 will manage the sort of more robust ad campaigns, but then we do suggest for the clients to put out regular content in their news feed, and then every once in a while take one of the posts that's performing well and boost it. And this is actually something I wanted to talk about as well. So what I typically encourage is, if you're going to be boosting one of your posts, first put it out as though it's a regular organic post. Engage its performance first, because if it's not performing well, you don't even really need to know why it's not performing well. But if it's not performing well, there's something that's fallen flat with it. It's not resonating with your audience. It's not engaging enough. It didn't have a call to action. It didn't have a striking image that sort of caught someone's attention in the busy news feed. For whatever reason, there's something about it that just didn't cut the mustard. So then why would you put money behind that? Why would you put money to push out a post that has already proven to you it's not performing well on its own? So instead, what you should do is you should post your content to the newsfeed, and then as you find something that, for whatever reason, again, you might not even understand necessarily why it's performing well, but when you do see something that's performing on average better than the most, that's a signal that this might be worth putting a little bit of extra money in amplifying that signal. So if it's already resonating well with 300 or 400 or 600 people, put a little bit of additional budget and push that out to 6,000 people, 12,000 people. And likely what will happen is whatever seemed to be resonating with that smaller audience, it might hold true that that'll resonate as well with the larger audience, which now you're paying for the distribution. So
we do occasionally have ad campaigns in which we will create organic content for the client and we will boost it for them. And that's always a good kind of rule for us to follow, is we're looking at how it performs organically and making sure that it did actually kind of take off at least a little bit. It got off the ground before we actually put the money behind it. And that's a really good thing that I think a lot of people miss or don't really think about, I guess.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about the what's maybe on the surface seem like these silly rules, but all of the restrictions when you're using Facebook's ad platform in terms of words you can or can't use, the amount of words that are allowed in a graphic, all that kind of stuff.
So anyone who's watching who has actually played around with running ads will probably be really curious about this part, because I think getting ads approved by Facebook or having ads disapproved is something you are going to run into. It happens to literally everyone I've known, who, regardless of how long they've been running ads. So there are a couple rules that you do need to follow. One of which is the amount of text you can have in a graphic. So you need to have less than 20% of any picture taken up by text. So this is maybe one of the more, I'm going to say, frustrating rules, because Facebook uses AI to tell whether it's text. So we might have just a photo, and because it's got a specific pattern on it that might kind of, maybe if you squinted at it in really poor lighting, might look like text, it might actually get caught up in the process.
Text on someone's t-shirt, for example.
Totally.
So I don't remember how many squares in the grid, but basically there's a tool. So when you upload your graphic, there's this sort of grid overlay, and it says, I don't remember it because I'm not the one that implements this on the daily. Yeah. You look at your sort of, 10 grid of squares, and as long as not more than 4 of them have text in it, you should be good. What's the actual ratio there? How's that working?
I think it's 4, yeah. And you can actually fully upload the graphic you want to use to, I forget what you need to type in, but I usually actually just Google it. I put overlay text tool for Facebook straight into Google. It'll bring it right up, and you upload your photo, and it'll say, it gives it a rating out of 3. Basically, you'll get 3 options, one of which is there's too much text, this ad is most likely not going to run. There's a medium amount of, or I guess there's 4 options. There's a medium amount of text. It's probably going to see like a lower, you're going to get fewer impressions and you're going to reach a lower amount of people. And then there's a little bit of text, but it's not really an issue. And then there's no issue at all. This is perfect. This is exactly what we like to see. So yeah, definitely use that tool if you're creating a graphic for the first time, and just to make sure that it's not going to get caught up in that approval process. That's a really good thing to note. The other thing is, if you are creating an actual ad and you're trying to lead them to a landing page, you have to make sure that the landing page actually matches what you're selling, what you're advertising. If you're trying to send them to a different part of your website than you have in the ad, and this might just happen accidentally, maybe you grabbed the wrong link or something like that, Facebook might see that as you kind of being dishonest and trying to trick anyone who clicks on that ad. So they'll flag it and it'll stop running. If it's really bad, it might actually disable your account. So double checking those links are always pretty important, and making sure that you're leading them to the right place if you are leading them away from Facebook.
Yeah, and it's really important too. And again, this is one of the sort of consultative services we offer when we're helping clients to develop ad campaigns, whether on Google or on social media. But we need to identify what's the conversion goal? What are we trying to achieve with these ads? And, again, it gets pretty granular. You can say this specific ad, its goal is to get people to like or follow our page. or this specific ad, its goal is to get people to RSVP for this event, or this specific goal is to get this phone number to ring, or the specific goal of this is to just broadly splatter it to as many people as possible for general awareness without any specific sort of, conversion. So it really matters what we're trying to have happen. And I guess it's really important to also have that in mind when you're determining before you ever, and again, this is why working with an agency can help too. We can help to identify what is the measurable goal that we're trying to achieve if this ad campaign were to be successful. Because the last thing you want to do is just throw money at Facebook or Google for that matter and put it out into the ad platform and then not have any good way to measure, well, so what happened, because you'll at least get a sense of how many people saw the ads. But I would want to know more. How many saw the ads? And, was it men? Was it women? Was it, sort of who saw the ad? And then what happened? Did they click on it? And what was the conversion path towards getting them to do hopefully what we wanted them to do, which again, it might be to RSVP to a Facebook event or join a private Facebook group or whatever. And to the extent that we give clear direction in the ads platform of what we're trying to do, Facebook will serve that ad differently to move towards a higher performance.
That's right. And it'll serve it to different people. So if you start, you can run this experiment yourself if you really want to. If you start clicking on a whole bunch of ads, you're going to get a lot more ads that are encouraging you to click on them and take you to a different website or whatnot. Or if you are somebody who often clicks on it when it has a call to action, that little button that says call now, you really like to click on those kinds of ads, it'll start serving mainly those ads to you because it knows that those are the ones that you are most likely to engage with. But same with like the shop now, all that good stuff. It can really change basically how you're getting ads delivered to you. So keeping that in mind too, we've had different successes using literally just changing the button at the bottom, versus, start like shop now versus learn more. Like it's going to get served to different people because we consciously made that decision, and sometimes it does better one way and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. Let's shift gears to an example for 910. We tend to get better results when we're doing paid advertising on Google. So this is Google keyword ads, which we talked about last week. And the idea is so we're B2B or business to business. We sell to other businesses. We build websites for businesses and help them with their marketing, et cetera. So typically a company owner or a manager goes to Google and they say something like, I'm looking for a website developer in Grand Prairie. And then we're pretty confident that, hey, that person might be looking for our services. So we serve an ad to them. We pay Google so that our ad is seen by people who are searching specific keywords related to our business. And we tend to get not as qualified leads from social media when we push that out, when we push our ads out to the newsfeed. Without getting into too much sort of granular detail why, I just want to explain that the exception to that is when we're, we use Facebook quite often when we're recruiting talent. So Emma is one of our graphic designers who has been with our team for a couple of months now, and she responded to one of our ads that we pushed out. We paid for distribution on Facebook and on Instagram. And for that one, we did some interesting targeting. We said, we're looking for, we are a company that has capabilities to work remotely. And in a perfect world, we'd love to have, people that are in Grand Prairie. So Marissa, you're in Grand Prairie, for example. I'm in Grand Prairie, but Marissa's in Airdrie, actually. So when we did our ad saying 910 is hiring a graphic designer, we set a geographic region for Alberta, male or female, and we probably put an age range in. I'm not too sure about that, but we certainly put in a lot of interests. And so maybe just speak a little bit about that.
Yeah. So when we made that ad, we kind of started thinking, what would a designer who might have, because the interesting part about running ads is you have to start thinking, you want your ad to be specific, but you have to think very broadly about what that might include. So as we're thinking about a designer, okay, so the obvious kind of topics to include is someone who's interested in graphic design. That's pretty straightforward. But then you start thinking, okay, well, what else? It's kind of like a little bit of like a mind map or like a tree. It starts to, or a web, it starts to expand outwards as you start thinking about it. So, okay, but if I'm interested in graphic design, maybe I haven't flagged to Facebook that I'm interested in graphic design, but maybe I've flagged to them that I use WordPress a lot, or I use Photoshop a lot, or I use InDesign or Illustrator or any Adobe application a lot, or maybe I've indicated to them, I'm super interested in learning more about HTML or coding or anything like that. Maybe that is part of it. Maybe it's just kind of thinking about, so you start to kind of expand outwards into, okay, well, I'm looking for a graphic designer, but what else does that entail, and what other interests might a graphic designer have without
Yeah.
knowing that person specifically?
Yeah, that's right. And so like in this case, Emma, it's not like Emma raised her hand and said, "Hey, Facebook, I would like for you to know that I'm interested in Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator, and I'm trying to learn HTML, and I'm really keen on WordPress, and I've played around with Wix and Weebly." It's nowhere did she sort of log in and sort of check a box for all these interests. But what happened rather is she just went about her business in Facebook land, and Facebook was watching. And so Facebook had a sense of the content in the pages and the groups that she's engaging with, and Facebook can track you off site as well, sort of outside of Facebook land through its partner sites. And so then Facebook has a general understanding of the type of things that Emma is engaging with on a regular basis. And to the extent that those things fit that sort of mind map of all of these things that are related to graphic design, then when 910 said, "We want this ad to be seen by people in Grand Prairie that seem to be interested in these types of things," then guess what? Emma saw our ad. And then so she clicked on it, and she saw there's an opportunity for, a full-time graphic design position with 910, and she submitted an application, and we're off to the running. So in a way that was very targeted for us to be able to place ads, in this case for professional career recruitment, for talent recruitment, so long as we could identify the general profile of the type of person we're looking for, and then we happen to put parameters around Alberta, we could have easily spread that into Western Canada or all of Canada, but we wanted to, as much as possible, try to hire someone locally, or the next step up is through, throughout the province.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I guess I just kind of want to go back to a second for the thinking about like getting a conversion. So we obviously got Emma to convert and not only apply for the job, but end up getting it, which is great. But that's something that we like to think about a lot is, okay, so maybe a client does want to just kind of run a general campaign just for awareness, but we still want the potential client or the audience to have something to do. So whether that is, okay, well, we're going to get them all to like the Facebook page because that's what the client wants, or we want them to call in or something like that. So you might be trying to run a general awareness thing, but having an action for the audience to actually do is incredibly important to even knowing how successful the ad was. And I know there are different trains of thought on this in the basically digital marketing world about whether you always need to have a way for people to convert, but we definitely like to at least try to make sure that there's somewhere that they can go and take an action to contact that client, right?
So we're getting at about, we're just over 30 minutes here. Maybe just wanted to talk really quickly about when someone posts to their Facebook page, again, organically, which is to say there's no money behind it. We're not using the Facebook ads platform. You're just creating a post about the special or promotion about the day or what's going on. Maybe there's if you're in retail, there's a bunch of new product came in and you're doing like an unboxing type post and showing the new shoes or something like that. So when a company posts to their Facebook page, they're hoping that it goes into the newsfeed. And one of the things that a lot of companies make the mistake of is sort of assuming that the amount of people that have liked their page is the amount of people that are going to see that post, and it doesn't at all work that way. So the pessimistic way to view this is that the Facebook algorithm, the filter, is always working against you. Because if you flip that over and just say, where most people spend their time on Facebook is on their phone. So they open up Facebook and they start scrolling with their finger. They're in their news feed and they're seeing a post from their mom and their sister, and then a couple of news agencies that they follow. And right now they're seeing COVID-19, everything. But at any given time, when someone opens up Facebook and they go to the news feed, they're seeing, one post at a time. They scroll, then there's the next post, and then they scroll the next post. And if they're in there for a minute, they might scroll past, 30 posts or something like that, depending on how quickly they're going through, right? But imagine all of the posts that could have been in there. It's literally thousands and thousands and thousands, depending again on how many active friends they have and how many pages they're following, etc. So what Facebook is really doing is it's filtering everything out, and it's giving you a sort of a curated view. And what the algorithm is trying to do is say, when I open up Facebook, it's giving me in the news feed what it believes I'm going to be most interested in. And it makes that determination partly by how engaged I am with the content, which is to say, like, commenting, and share. Generally, there's also tagging, and just hitting the play button on a YouTube video. So you had sort of already alluded to this, where if I'm seeing content in my newsfeed and on a regular basis I'm engaging with it, that's a fairly strong signal to Facebook to give me more of this type of content. I'm affirming what I'm interested in, so then the algorithm gives me more of that. And the reason why Facebook does that is, to the extent that you're getting more content of the type that you're going to engage, you're going to stay on Facebook longer. They can serve more ads. They make more money. Mm-hmm. But the other thing that happens when I'm engaging with content, not only is it giving a signal to give me more of this type of content and similar content to this type, then Facebook is going to start recommending in other type of content from pages that I might not have followed. But sort of in a similar vein to that, the content that I'm engaging with on a regular basis might start getting recommended out to my peer group of friends that have similar interests to me. So Facebook altogether is this recommendation engine that feeds your news feed with stuff that it thinks is going to really have you engage more. And there's pros and cons to this, and you've heard me speak about before the pitfalls and the downsides of social media for personal use. I'm a big advocate of social media for businesses, but for our kids and for our own sort of personal sanity, our newsfeed is not the best place to hang out because it's biased. It just gives us more and more of what we're clicking on. So that might be fully liberal or conservative, or it might be, a green movement, or it might be conspiracy theories, and, all of these sort of things. So there's a lot of, I guess, pros and cons to the newsfeed. But anyways, I'm getting off track here. But if you're a business and you're creating content and you're pushing it out into newsfeed, the first thing you have to remember is that this is probably going to be filtered out and it's not going to land in too many news feeds. But to the extent that you land in at least a few news feeds and your content was engaging, it was visually dynamic, it had a good call to action, it was generally interesting, and it maybe somehow compelled people to click like, comment, and share. Well, to the extent that those people click those buttons, it's signaled to Facebook, yeah, I would like to see more content from this page. And so they'll start to see more of it. And it'll also start recommending it to more people. So the quality of the content you're pushing out to your newsfeed is far more important than the quantity. So quality over quantity is a bit of a sort of a buzzword saying, but it really matters that, because if you imagine putting out 3 posts per day, but they're not really visually engaging, there's no call to action, there's no photos, or there's no links on where someone could go and to read the article or to watch the video, it's not going to perform well, and you're wasting your time. It's going to land in very, very few news feeds, which is to say you shouldn't have even wasted your own time to put that post out.
Yeah, that's right. I think the other thing to keep in mind, and I know you like to mention this when we do like some social media training, but using the tools that Facebook gives you. So actually uploading a video to Facebook instead of just putting it through as a link, that can help just boost the amount of people that it's going to show the video to, because one, it's promoting its own thing, and it's not going to encourage someone to leave the website, which is what Facebook wants, right? and you're also using an application that they have built in. So it kind of gives you a little bit of brownie points for that, a little bit
Yeah,
extra boost.
that's right. It's like I tend to create these simplified rules of thumb where if you're talking to someone who's advanced with their use of Facebook, you can start to poke holes in these. But just for general sort of things to remember at the highest levels, if you're using Facebook's inbuilt tools, they will generally help you to create better, more engaging content, and therefore the algorithm will recommend out to more people. So, like everyone's seen this before, when you go in and you create a post, and now there's like a little drop down, and you can put like a rainbow cover behind it, or you can choose a background, or you can use emojis. And you're like, hashtags, what are hashtags? You can use these hashtags and they turn blue and they become clickable, and you can hit the @ symbol and tag a friend. To the extent that you're using these tools, your content will generally perform better and will engage more people. Now, when you get really sophisticated, you can use all of these tools in very creative ways and create content that is going to significantly perform better than your peer group, your competitors, for example, who are just not being mindful and taking the time to learn the platform. So I use the analogy of swimming against the current. You're going nowhere. It's like Facebook is so powerful if you're using it properly. And too many people make the assumption that I use Facebook every day on the personal side, so I'm adept at it. I can just do it for my business. But when you're using it for personal, you don't really care ultimately how many people are seeing it. You're not measuring conversions and analytics. You're not paying someone for their time to do it, like paying a staff, for example. And so the moment you're putting business resources into professional use of social media, you want to make sure that you're following best practices, which is a buzzword to say, do it properly. Understand how the algorithm works. Take the time to make a nice looking graphic. Be prepared. Don't just sort of show up and say, oh, it's oh my goodness, I have to post something today because I'm a business on Facebook. Well, no, you should have been intentional. You should have put out a plan and developed a general content strategy and know that these are the types of things that we want to discuss and promote on social media. And on Monday, we focus on this. And before the weekend, we focus on that. And today is the day where we're going to highlight one of our vendors or one of our brands and offer some sort of promotion to get people to come into the store. So you should be very intentional about that.
Yeah, and I think I guess one last thing I'd like to point out is we've kind of talked about making sure the quality is really high, and you're putting out these really, really nice post. I would caution that we wouldn't want to make you don't want to put quality above being real either. So like using a stock photo over a photo that you actually took of your team, the team photo, I can tell you right now, is always going to do better. We can tell that it's real. It's the actual people. It's not hired actors or models or anything like that. It's nothing like that. It's real people, and people can tell and Facebook can tell. So those do really well when you can show off something that is real and actually happened. So encouraging that kind of content as well.
Yeah, there's so many powerful tools now built within Facebook and Instagram, plus literally an ocean full of free and $2.99 apps from the App Store that allow you to make nice photo collages or looping videos or all of these sort of things. So what I can say with a high level of confidence is that any company that chooses to invest in doing social media properly, you can get very, very good results on that. And, depending on the nature of your business, if you're B2B or B2C, maybe you should spend more time on LinkedIn versus Facebook. And, there's some determinations to be made there. But what is an unfair expectation is to expect social media to perform for your company if you've just jumped on the bandwagon and expect it to work for you without putting any time, effort, and resources into it. So it's one of those things where you really get out of it what you put in, and what you put in should be intention, planning, and resources, and that resources being someone's creative energy and time to create engaging content. And that person should be familiar enough with their company that they can sort of help to promote the things that are in line ultimately with the goals and objectives of the company owners.
Yep, totally.
Cool. Well, thanks for setting up the call today, and we'll think about what we want to geek out about for next week.
Well, I'm sure we'll think of something.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Marissa.